Kingdom Hearts 3. I don't intend on doing a lot of video game reviews just because, frankly, I don't do a lot of gaming that much these days. But Kingdom Hearts 3, this is a game I've been looking forward to for so long. I'm a huge fan of Kingdom Hearts 1. Kingdom Hearts 2, not quite as good, but still I enjoyed it. And I've been looking forward to this one for 13 years. So anticipation is high. And I just beat it last night, and I'm a little disappointed. Not gonna lie, it's not a terrible game, but it's not the same standard. It's not even really in the same ballpark. It starts off on a strong note. You have the beautiful opening cinematic with the pop song playing. A lot of people have given a lot of flack because it's got a little bit of dubstep in there and it's not as coherent aside from like the punchline. But I liked it. So that bit felt like Kingdom Hearts to me. Like it brought a tear to my eye. You know, it's kind of like when when we all sat down to watch Force Awakens for the first time and the opening scroll happens and you get that feeling you haven't felt since you watched the original trilogy for the first time. Before getting a little disappointed again. I guess there's a pattern to this. Anyway, on to the game. The story is, well, it's convoluted. Just because they only did 2 console games leading up to this one does not mean there was not other games. They did a dozen or so mobile games. Not mobile, but handheld. I think they did a mobile. I could be mistaken. But I found out shortly before this game came out that it's all part of the canon. That it's all in the game, so I needed to catch up fast, so I watched a couple of YouTube videos to familiarize myself with everything that happened. If you haven't played any of the handheld, that mobile game, tell me in the comments down below if that really exists. But if you haven't done any of that, I suggest you do the same, because even with that going into this game, I was really confused at times as to who some of these people were, what their relationship was, how they came to be the way they are. Still, they do make some efforts in the game to try and explain how things are, and I think that at one point they give you like a glossary index to try and explain it, but again, it really kind of hurts your immersion when you can't figure out what's going on. Now, the combat in this game, this time around they added in another feature to try to ante things up a bit. They included, what were they? Theme park rides from the original Disneyland. The classic stuff, the locomotive, the carousel, the teacup ride, all that. But they are really OP, in my opinion. They cause a lot of damage, and it's area damage, so it hits everything. And they're not, you know, rare occurrences. Like every single battle, even against like minor foes, you would get maybe 1, maybe even 2 or 3 instances where you could conjure them up. I remember having one or two instances where I was able to summon one ride, finish it to completion without finishing it up early, and then was immediately able to call on another one. That's one little gripe, is that you're not going to have any challenges with the combat in this game. Especially with the new versions of the Keyblades. The Keyblades in this game, they're able to evolve with combat. Like, they're able to go on to secondary, and some even have a third form. Now, all that together, I played the game on standard. I'm sure it's much different on challenging. But throughout the entire game, with all that stuff at my disposal, I only died maybe 1 or 2 times, and that was just because I wasn't really paying attention and kind of, you know, messing around. But moving on from the combat, there's the design. Everything in this game is beautiful. The textures are great, the graphics are great, the color scheme, the water in Pirates of the Caribbean, that I was particularly impressed with. That you can tell looking at that a lot of time and energy was put into its creation. But going into the worlds, there's fewer of them in this game than there were in the previous ones. And I read in an interview they explained that there's fewer worlds, but each of them is much more grander in size and scope. And that's true. When you go to the Hercules one, that's your first planet you go to, it's no longer just in the Colosseum and that little side trip down to the underworld. It's the whole city of Thebes and Olympus. And it's true for all the other worlds. San Fran Tokyo from Big Hero 6, that is one gigantic city that you're riding around in trying to find stuff and do things. But the problem is that as big as the maps are, there's really not a lot more to do than you would have done in the previous games. So I kind of wish they had done smaller maps and more worlds like they'd done before. I think that was the better way to go. But I've heard that they're really wanting to do DLC, so maybe they'll add in more worlds. Hopefully. They said it was going to be something other than cosmetic. Moving on, though, from the worlds. They've added a bunch of side quests this time. They did in the previous games, but there's quite a bit more of them this time around. You have finding all the Mickey markers that are stuck in the ground, or these little imprints of the Mickey Mouse icon. You're taking a picture of it with your phone. And can I just say, I'm really tired of social media features being put into video games. I don't like doing selfies or photos in the real world, but now I've got to do it as part of a mission in a video game? Come on now. One world that really kind of depressed me a little bit was Winnie the Pooh. Now, I grew up watching Winnie the Pooh. I watched the original cartoon. I loved all that. And going into the books in 1 and 2 was my favorite time. But this time, it's kind of smaller. This time you're not doing something significant like finding everybody or, anything really substantial. All you're doing is harvesting crops, and you do it through a game mechanic that feels like it's right out of Candy Crush. I don't want to be associating mobile games with Winnie the Pooh. Come on now, this is supposed to be innocent childhood stuff here. Keep the mobile games out of it. The gummy ships are back, and this time, instead of, you just surviving the trip over, you're actually forging the trail. It's like open space, and you're trying to fly to it, which is really cool. But we don't really have anything to assist us in terms of navigation outside of just, the little blips on the map saying, go here. So, yeah, there's a lot of times where you're just kind of getting lost in all the stuff that's going on because you got no way to really figure out what you're doing. At least that was my experience. Maybe some of y'all are better at keeping, not getting lost. When it comes to the ending, though, this is where it kind of really depressed me a bit. Now, they try to wrap everything up and give everybody their happy ending like it's suspected, but the final boss battle is really anticlimactic to me. Like, essentially, I'm fighting Xehanort not once, not twice, not 3 times, but multiple times. And I'm just like, how many times do I have to beat the same guy over before he's finally done? Oh. I'm getting a little nitpicky there, but the final thing, the final cutscene at the end, it kind of leaves it open that there's more to come, especially the after credit scene. You don't quite know what it is. I think they said this is the last chapter in Kingdom Hearts. They may be moving on to something else. Maybe the Vernum Rex thing that was displayed in the Toy Story universe. That'd be cool. In my opinion, though, this game was more of a movie than an actual video game. You spend so much time in cutscenes. I think I spent more time in one cutscene or another than I was actually playing the game. They are so frequent. Another thing that's really missing from this game, and I don't quite understand why they chose to exclude this, is the Final Fantasy characters. I mean, in the first one we had Cloud and his friends, and the next one we had Auron, and this one, nothing. None of them. You don't see any of them, not even in passing. And I don't understand why that is. But maybe that's another thing they can add with DLC. I would really hope to see that, because we have all these other characters. We got the ones from Final Fantasy 12, we got the ones from 15, I know 15 wasn't 100%, but the characters were okay. I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing them again. Overall, though, I'm going to give this movie... Well, it's not a movie. Again, I don't do a lot of video game reviews. I will give this game a 7 out of 10. For those of you who don't know, anything 5 or below, I'm saying don't bother with. Anything 6 or 7, you can probably enjoy it at least once. 8 to 10, you can play it again. So, let me know down below what y'all thought of the game, if you've played it or if you thought about playing it. Let me know what your favorite Keyblade was. Like, that's always something that interests me. My favorite was the Honey Pot one from Winnie the Pooh. Otherwise, like, comment, subscribe, if you're up to it. That's all. Thanks for listening.